After pinning your fabric and getting it checked by the teacher, your next step is to start cutting. So let's talk a little bit about the shears first. These are made for your thumb to go into this hole and your fingers to go into the bigger hole. I always keep my pointer finger out because it helps guide me as I go. I'm right-handed. These are the scissors I'm going to use. If you're left-handed, I have these orange ones that you can use. And again, your thumb goes into the small hole and your fingers go into the other holes, pointer fingers out to help guide you. All right. To make this easier, actually I want to back up a step. Before I start cutting, I want to make sure that all of the pins along the selvage have been taken out. And I also want to check to make sure that all the ones that are along this line where we pinned the edges together are all taken out. Mine are gone already. The next thing that I want to do is to just help me manage this piece a little bit better. I'm going to go ahead and rough cut, which means I'm not cutting next to the line. I'm rough cutting the pocket from the bigger chunk of fabric. And I'm just going to set that aside for right now. And I'm going to concentrate on the big piece. Now, there are some things on here that I have to be careful about. I want to make sure that I don't cut off any of my notches. And I want to cut right next to the line. Not cut it off, but right next to the line. So I'm actually going to flip this around this way. I'm right-handed, so when I cut, I'm going to be cutting counterclockwise. I'm going to use my left hand to hold the fabric flat, and I'm going to slide my scissors all the way under and make sure that I have nice long strokes with my scissors. When I come to and if you notice I'm sliding them back up in here. When I come to my notch, I want to make sure that the point of my scissors don't go past the notch. I'm going to cut out and around, and then when I come back in, I'm just going to use the tip of my scissors. Get my scissors back in there so I can turn, and then I'm going to continue to cut all along that edge. If I need to turn my fabric to get a little closer to it, I'm going to do that. And again, I've got got notches right here. I don't want to put my scissors all the way in because I could accidentally cut that notch off. So I line them up so that my scissors are set up so they won't go past that notch. I'm going to cut carefully out and around it using just the tip. Slide my scissors in very carefully, cut that corner, and so on. In fact, it might even be easier for me if I kind of rough cut this part off. Not cutting by the line, not cutting anything off. That's important. I'm just kind of rough cutting this chunk off. And I can just take this, get it out of the way, and continue cutting along here. Now, if you're left-handed, you're going to do pretty much the opposite. Instead of going clockwise, you're going to go counterclockwise. You're going to put your scissors right up next to the line. It's kind of hard for me to do because I'm not left-handed. And you want to cut right next to the line. Nice long strokes. Make sure that none of your pins are touching the cutting line because we don't want to accidentally hit the pins with the scissors because it'll damage the scissor blades. When you get the big piece cut out, then go ahead and cut out the pocket. There's one more thing that we have to cut, and I will show you that later. Before we go on to marking our pattern pieces and our fabric pieces, we need to cut out a couple of pieces that we're going to use to do a sample seam. We want these to be 4 inches by 6 inches, and we're going to use some of the straight edges that you already have. So let's start with this straight edge over here. I'm just going to put a couple of pins, or at least one, kind of holding this stuff all together here in the middle. And then I'm going to take my 6-inch seam gauge and just lay it along the edge, the straight edge of this, and put a few marks. And if you notice, I'm just using a regular pencil. I wouldn't use ink, but a regular pencil will work fine. Okay, then I'm going to set my seam gauge at 4 inches, and I'm going to move it along this edge right here. And you don't really need to have a continuous line, as long as your little marks are close enough that you can go from one mark to the next with your scissor blades. Okay, so I'm going to put one more pin. This stuff kind of likes to flap up and move around. So, okay, so 4 inches by 6 inches. I'm just going to use my shears and cut down the one line, turn, go the opposite direction, and then I'm going to cut right along this line here. And there's my piece, 4 inches by 6 inches. That's what you need to have.